Listen carefully. This isn't just a title, it's a warning. Every single day, whether you realize it or not, you are training yourself. The question is, what are you training for? Because if you're waking up late, choosing comfort over discipline, scrolling instead of building, avoiding hard things instead of attacking them, you are not staying the same. You are actively training yourself to be average. Average doesn't happen by accident. It's built through small decisions, the snooze button, the excuses, the I'll start tomorrow mindset. That's not harmless, that's conditioning, that's repetition. And repetition builds identity. You don't wake up one day and suddenly become successful. In the same way, you don't wake up one day and become average either. You train for it, quietly, daily, consistently. Look at your habits. They are your training ground. If you avoid discomfort, you are training your mind to run from pressure. If you quit when things get hard, you are teaching yourself that struggle means stop. If you keep choosing easy, your brain starts believing that easy is all you deserve. And here's the dangerous part. Average feels comfortable. It doesn't hurt enough to force change. It's just okay, just fine. But fine is the enemy of greatness. Because while you're sitting in that comfort zone, life is passing you by. Opportunities are passing you by. The version of you that you could become is slipping away. You say you want success. You say you want a better life. But your daily actions are voting for a different reality. Let me be real with you. Your future is not built on what you want. It's built on what you repeat. If you repeat discipline, you build strength. If you repeat focus, you build progress. If you repeat excuses, you build regret. So what are you repeating? Because right now, somebody else is waking up earlier than you. Somebody else is putting in the work you're avoiding. Somebody else is becoming the person you keep talking about. And the gap between you and them, it's not talent, it's not luck, it's training. You've been training just in the wrong direction. But here's the shift. This is where everything changes. The moment you become aware of it, you can flip it. You can start training yourself for discipline instead of comfort. You can train your mind to push when it wants to quit. You can build habits that force growth instead of feeding laziness. And it starts small. Not big speeches, not big plans. Small, consistent wins. Wake up when you say you will. Do the work even when you don't feel like it. Stay focused when distractions call your name. That's training. And over time, that training builds something powerful: respect for yourself, confidence, momentum, a mindset that doesn't break under pressure. You don't need motivation every day. You need standards. Because motivation fades, but standards hold the line. Right now, you're either training yourself to settle or training yourself to rise. There is no neutral. So make a decision. Not tomorrow, not next week. Right now, are you going to keep practicing average, or are you finally ready to train for greatness? Every single day, from the moment you open your eyes to the moment you go to sleep, you are in training. There is no pause button on personal development. Life doesn't wait for you to get serious before it starts shaping you. It's happening right now in real time through your actions, your habits, and your decisions. You might think some days don't matter, that one lazy morning, one missed opportunity, one distracted afternoon is harmless. But that's where you're wrong. Because training is not about one big moment. It's about repetition. When you choose to get up on time, you're training discipline. When you hit snooze, you're training delay. When you focus on your work, you're training your mind to stay locked in. When you constantly check your phone, you're training distraction. Every choice is a vote, and those votes are building your identity whether you like it or not. You don't suddenly become focused one day. You don't suddenly become confident, strong, or successful out of nowhere. Those qualities are built quietly, behind the scenes, through consistent behavior. The same is true on the other side. You don't wake up one day and become average by accident. You trained for it. You practiced it. You repeated the habits that led you there. The problem is, most people only respect training when it's obvious, like going to the gym or learning a skill, but the real training happens in the unnoticed moments. It's in how you respond when things get hard. It's in what you do when nobody is watching. It's in whether you keep your word to yourself when motivation disappears. If you quit when things feel uncomfortable, you're training your brain to escape pressure. If you avoid challenges, you're training fear. If you constantly wait for the right mood, you're training inconsistency. Over time, this becomes automatic. You won't even think about it. You'll just act that way because that's who you've trained yourself to be. On the flip side, if you push through resistance, you're building mental toughness. If you stay consistent even when you don't feel like it, you're building discipline. If you show up daily, no matter what, you're building reliability within yourself. And that kind of training compounds. It stacks. It turns small wins into a powerful identity. This is where most people lose. They underestimate the power of daily training. They think big change requires big action, but the truth is small actions repeated daily are what create massive results. What you do today might seem small, but when you repeat it over weeks, months, and years, it defines your entire life. So understand this clearly. You are not waiting to become something in the future. You are becoming something right now. Every moment is a training session. Every choice is shaping you. The only question left is, what are you training yourself to be? Nobody wakes up one day and decides to live an average life. It doesn't happen in a single moment. It's built quietly, piece by piece, through small habits that seem harmless in the moment but become powerful over time. That's how average is created, not through failure, but through repetition of low standards. It starts with simple choices. You delay your work just a little. You avoid a difficult task because you're not in the mood. You choose entertainment over improvement. None of these decisions feel life-changing on their own, and that's exactly why they're dangerous. They slip under your radar. You justify them. You tell yourself it's just for today. But just today turns into a pattern, and that pattern turns into your lifestyle. Habits don't ask for permission to grow. Once you repeat something enough times, it becomes automatic. Your brain starts to prefer what is easy, familiar, and comfortable. So when you consistently choose the easier path, you are wiring yourself to avoid effort. You are teaching your mind that struggle is something to escape, not something to overcome. That's how average takes control. Not with loud failure, but with quiet consistency. You scroll instead of studying. You rest instead of pushing forward. You talk about goals instead of taking action. And over time, these small decisions stack up. They create a gap between where you are and where you said you wanted to be. The truth is, success and failure are both built on habits. The only difference is what you repeat. High performers don't rely on motivation every day. They rely on systems and habits that force them to act even when they don't feel like it. On the other hand, average behavior is driven by feelings. If you only act when you feel motivated, you will spend most of your life doing nothing that truly matters. There's also a hidden cost to these small habits. Every time you avoid effort, you weaken your self-trust. You start to realize that you don't follow through on what you say. That damages your confidence. Not because you're incapable, but because you've trained yourself to quit before you even try. And once that mindset settles in, it becomes harder to break out of it. What makes this even more serious is that these habits don't just affect your present, they shape your future. Opportunities require preparation. Growth requires effort. But if your daily routine is built on avoiding discomfort, you won't be ready when those moments come. You won't have the discipline, the focus, or the resilience needed to step up. And here's the reality most people avoid. You don't get judged by your intentions. You get judged by your results. You can have big dreams, powerful goals, and clear visions, but if your daily habits don't support them, they mean nothing. So if you look at your life and feel stuck, don't look for one big mistake. Look at the small things you repeat every day. That's where the answer is. Because average isn't a destination, it's a pattern. And patterns can be changed, but only when you're honest enough to face them and strong enough to replace them. Comfort will ruin you quietly. It doesn't come into your life like an enemy. It comes disguised as relief, as ease, as something you deserve after doing enough. And that's why it's dangerous. Because you don't fight it. You welcome it. At first, comfort feels harmless. You tell yourself you need a break. You convince yourself that you'll push harder tomorrow. You choose the easier option just this once. But comfort doesn't stay small. The more you choose it, the more it grows. It starts becoming your default setting. And once that happens, anything that requires effort begins to feel like a burden. Your mind adapts to whatever you feed it. If you constantly choose comfort, your tolerance for discomfort drops. Things that used to feel normal, waking up early, working hard, staying focused, start to feel difficult. Not because they actually are, but because you've trained yourself to avoid anything that stretches you. That's how comfort weakens you. Not all at once, but slowly. It chips away at your discipline, it lowers your standards, it makes you settle for less than what you're capable of. And the worst part is, you don't even notice it happening. You just start accepting a version of yourself that is smaller, slower, and less driven. Growth and comfort cannot exist in the same space. Every level of progress requires you to step into something unfamiliar, something challenging. It demands effort, patience, and consistency. But if your priority is always to feel comfortable, you will avoid the very things that could change your life. Look at any area where you're stuck. Chances are, comfort is involved. You're avoiding a hard conversation. You're delaying a difficult task. You're staying in a routine that feels safe but isn't moving you forward. You're choosing what's easy over what's necessary. And here's the truth. Comfort doesn't just stop your growth, it creates fear. The longer you stay in your comfort zone, the harder it becomes to leave it. Challenges start to feel bigger than they really are. You begin to doubt yourself, you hesitate more, you overthink more, all because you haven't trained yourself to handle discomfort. But the people who succeed, the ones who move forward while others stay stuck, they have a different relationship with comfort. They don't chase it, they control it. They understand that discomfort is part of the process. They lean into it. They use it as a signal that they're growing, not something to run away from. Discomfort is where strength is built. It's where discipline is tested. It's where confidence is earned. Every time you push through something that feels hard, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more. That builds momentum. That builds belief. If you want a different life, you have to break your attachment to comfort. You have to stop asking, what feels easy right now, and start asking, what will move me forward? Because in the end, comfort might feel good today, but it will cost you tomorrow. Who you are is not something you decide once. It's something you prove every single day. Identity is not built through words, goals, or intentions. It is built through repetition. What you do consistently becomes what you believe about yourself, and that belief turns into your reality. Every action you repeat is sending a message to your mind. When you follow through on your commitments, even the small ones, you are telling yourself, I am disciplined. When you stay focused instead of getting distracted, you are reinforcing, I am in control. When you push through difficulty instead of quitting, you are building the identity of someone who doesn't break under pressure. But it works the other way too. When you constantly delay tasks, you are training yourself to believe, I am a procrastinator. When you quit halfway, you are reinforcing, I don't finish what I start. When you make excuses instead of taking responsibility, you are shaping an identity built on avoidance. Over time, these patterns become automatic. You don't question them, you accept them. That's the power of repetition. It removes the need for decision. It turns actions into habits and habits into identity. And once something becomes part of your identity, it becomes very hard to change because you stop seeing it as something you do and start seeing it as who you are. This is where most people get stuck. They try to change their life by focusing on big, sudden transformations. They rely on motivation, waiting for that burst of energy to push them forward. But motivation fades. It comes and goes. Repetition is what stays. Repetition is what builds something real. If you want to become disciplined, you don't start by claiming it. You start by acting disciplined in small ways over and over again. You wake up when you say you will. You complete tasks even when you don't feel like it. You stay consistent, especially on the days when it feels pointless. At first, it feels forced. It feels unnatural. But with repetition, it becomes part of you. The same applies to confidence. Confidence is not something you wait for. It's something you earn through repeated action. Every time you face something uncomfortable and don't back down, you build proof. That proof stacks up until your mind has no choice but to believe, I can handle this. Repetition also exposes your true priorities. You can say you value success, growth, or discipline, but your repeated actions will reveal the truth. If your days are filled with distractions, delays, and excuses, then that is what you are prioritizing. Whether you admit it or not, the key is to take control of what you repeat. You don't need to change everything at once. You need to choose better actions and commit to them daily. Keep your promises to yourself. Focus on consistency, not perfection. Understand that every small action matters because it's shaping the person you are becoming. In the end, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. And your habits are nothing more than repeated actions. So if you want a stronger identity, a more powerful mindset, and a better life, you have to respect repetition. Because what you repeat, you become. You say you want success. You say you want a better life, more money, more freedom, more respect. The vision in your head is clear. The problem is not what you want. The problem is what you do every day doesn't match it. There's a gap between your goals and your actions, and that gap is where frustration, stress, and stagnation live. You can't build a powerful future with weak daily habits. It doesn't work like that. You don't get rewarded for what you hope for. You get results from what you consistently execute. And if your routine is filled with distractions, delays, and low effort, then no matter how big your dreams are, your results will stay small. This is where most people fool themselves. They believe that wanting something badly is enough. They talk about their goals. They plan, they imagine, they even feel motivated sometimes. But when it comes down to action, they hesitate. They wait for the right mood. They tell themselves they'll start tomorrow. And tomorrow keeps moving. The truth is simple and uncomfortable. Your daily routine is a mirror. It shows you exactly what you're committed to. Not what you say, not what you post, not what you promise, but what you actually do. If your day starts late, lacks structure, and is filled with distractions, then that is what you are committed to, whether you like it or not. Success demands alignment. Your actions, your habits, and your goals must all point in the same direction. If even one of those is off, progress slows down or stops completely. You can't say you want discipline and still negotiate with yourself every morning. You can't say you want growth and still avoid the very tasks that would push you forward. And here's the dangerous part. Misalignment creates false comfort. You feel like you're doing something because you're thinking about your goals. But thinking is not progress. Planning is not progress. Only action moves you forward. Without action, you're just standing still with a good idea. Over time, this gap starts to hurt. You begin to feel stuck. You wonder why things aren't changing. You question your abilities. But the issue is not your potential. It's your consistency. It's the lack of daily execution that matches your ambition. Closing that gap doesn't require a perfect plan. It requires honesty. You have to look at your day and ask yourself, do my actions reflect the life I say I want? If the answer is no, then you don't need more motivation. You need discipline. You need structure. You need to start making decisions that support your future instead of sabotaging it. That means doing what needs to be done, even when it's inconvenient. It means choosing long-term results over short-term comfort. It means holding yourself accountable, especially when no one else is watching. When your actions finally align with your goals, everything changes. Progress becomes visible. Confidence starts to grow. You begin to trust yourself again because you're proving through action that you are serious. At the end of the day, your goals don't define you, your habits do. And if your habits don't match your ambition, then your results will never match your dreams. The moment you become aware of what you're doing, everything changes. Not slowly, not eventually, immediately. Because awareness gives you control. Before that, you're just moving on autopilot, repeating patterns you never questioned. But once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. You start recognizing your habits, your excuses, your delays, and that's where your power begins. You are not stuck. You are not locked into the person you've been. The idea that this is just how I am is one of the biggest lies you can tell yourself. Who you are is not fixed, it's trained. And if it's trained, it can be retrained. Every habit you have right now was built through repetition. That means it can be replaced the same way. Not overnight, not with one big decision, but with consistent, intentional action. The key is to stop waiting for the perfect moment. There is no perfect moment. There is only a decision, followed by action. Change starts when you interrupt the pattern. When you usually delay, you act. When you usually quit, you push a little further. When you usually choose comfort, you lean into discomfort. It will feel unnatural at first. It will feel forced. That's a sign you're doing something different. That's a sign you're breaking the old training. Most people fail here because they expect change to feel good right away. It doesn't. Growth is uncomfortable. Discipline feels heavy in the beginning, but if you stay consistent, something powerful happens. Your mind adapts. What once felt hard starts to feel normal. What once required effort becomes automatic. That's when you realize the truth. You're not fighting yourself anymore. You're building yourself. You don't need to change everything at once. Focus on one or two habits that matter. Keep your promises to yourself. If you say you'll wake up at a certain time, do it. If you plan to complete a task, finish it. These small wins are not small. They are the foundation of self-respect. And self-respect is what fuels long-term discipline. There will be days when you slip, days when you fall back into old patterns. That doesn't erase your progress unless you let it. The difference now is awareness. You recognize it faster. You correct it quicker. You don't stay stuck there. This is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about taking control of your actions instead of letting your habits control you. And understand this, change is always available to you. Not next month, not next year, right now, in this moment, with the next decision you make. You can keep repeating the same patterns and getting the same results, or you can decide to shift, to act differently, to build something stronger. That choice is always in front of you. Your past training brought you here. Your new training can take you somewhere better.